Hey guys, how you doing? So this week's video, we're going to be brewing on this baby. Okay, so some of you may not know, anything about this kit, but anyway, this kit is the original Mad Dog brewing kit. So when I first founded the brewery back in 2014, this was the kit that pretty much, if you like, got it all started. So it allowed me to produce 2 firkins or 2 casks of beer at a time. So nowadays it uses a pilot kit, to brew up all experimental beers and things like that. So I also use it for home brewing as well, which is pretty much what I'm doing today. So I need some beer at home. But it also gives me a chance to do an experimental brew for the brewery, using a fairly new culture of yeast to the brewing industry anyway in the UK and also the US, if you like. It's a yeast that's been around for many hundreds of years, called Jovaru. Now I've already put a bit of a write-up on our Facebook page and our Instagram as well, both at Mad Dog Brewing Co. So you can check out those there, alright, on this particular yeast. So if you're into all your yeasts and really into your beer and stuff and want to do a bit more reading up about what we're doing here today and things like that, then go and check that out. Anyway, so the simple mash we're going to use here, you can see it in there. Okay, so it's just blend pale in there, and I thought just give it some extra smoothness and some nice cleaner notes. We've just added some Simpson's Golden Naked Oats as well. I don't know if you guys have ever tried the Golden Naked Oats, but they are awesome, just to eat them straight out of the bag. I'll get some for you in a bit and we can have a look at them up at close anyway. So with this, anyway, we're up to about 70 degrees in there at the moment. We need to go up to another 7 degrees, then we'll get mashed in, so not too long. So we'll come back down, but let me go and grab some of these Golden Naked Oats because I have to show them to you. Here we are, pretty much up here. Right, let me just grab a thingy-majiggy. Right, I'll get some out and I can show you them what they like. Okay, so there we go. Just hold them up. I don't know if you can see that on focus or not, but anyway, there we go. Absolutely lovely things. Give some really nice biscuity flavours. Not too much, but they give good head retention. That nice sexy lacing that you can see down the glass. I've only ever used them once. I want to see what they'll do to this beer today. It's just going to be a simple plain, if you like, pale ale, so it's not so much about the malt or even the hops that we're going to use in it. 2 additions of hops in this today, which can be Azacca. Alright, so there's going to be hops going into the mash, and there's going to be some Whirlpool hops as well, so but nothing too over the top, because it's all about this yeast today. I want to be able to taste the esters that I get from this yeast. Just gives me an idea of what yeasts I can use, what beers, I can use this yeast in the future. That's if it's any good at all. It might be a load of trash and I might not like it. It might go straight down the drain. And that's the whole thing about doing experimental brews. So if it's no good at the end of the day, it's only 6 kilos of malt, about a couple 100 grams of hops, the experimental yeast, which costs like 2-3 quid, that we have to throw away. But it's better than brewing up 1,000 litres and dumping that down the drain. That's never ever good. So and don't get me wrong, from time to time that may happen, simply because it's beer, it's a live product at the end of the day, and that's just what happens. This time of year, summer, just borderline August at the moment, 1st of August tomorrow. So, you know, usually when we got all the tanks filled up, as we're in the back end of nowhere, you know, we have to deal with things like fruit fly and stuff like that. We try and manage it the best we can, but you'll never get rid of all of them. But sometimes now and again, you know, you might get the odd one that gets in the tank. If that happens, the whole lot goes down the drain. But for the last 2 years, you know, touch wood, it's we've not had any problems with it, and we seem to have managed that problem pretty well, like, you know. But there we go. I'm rambling on a bit now. Let's get back to the brew. So you can see I've just weighed out the mash hops. Okay, so I wish you guys could get the old smell-o-vision going here, but they smell absolutely incredible. So, and because obviously we're a commercial brewer, we have to buy these in 5 kilo bales, you know, so they come in boxes obviously, but that's what we're looking at today. But yeah. Okay, so let's get mashed in, shall we? Let's see what happens here. I think we're going to be lucky if it goes over that temperature probe, which is a bit of a pain, but we'll see. Could do with it going over there, really. This beer will be a 5% beer as well, but there we go, looking pretty good. Now, one thing I've never done before is tried adding hops, obviously, to the actual mash itself. Now, this is I'm only doing this because it's things I read up about this particular strain of yeast, you know. We're just trying something a little bit different with it as well, trying, rather than putting hops as you normally would at the beginning of the boil to get your bitterness and stuff. I'm going to try and do that actually in the mash itself, because from things I've read about this yeast, obviously you can get quite a lot of bitterness. It creates its own bitterness and can make the situation a bit worse. So we're giving this a go anyway. Right, so just check my temperature on that mash and see what it reads on the front. So I'm looking to get quite a dry beer out of this as well. I don't want it too sweet, so, but not overly dry. So we'll see where we go anyway. Temperature's getting there. We usually aim for about 66 in the brewery, but as I said, a bit cooler today, which I'm happy with that. It works out. I don't know if you guys can see that. 64.7. I'm really happy with that, so we'll go with that. Okay, but before we're done, let's add those hops in there, and I'll just give them a quick now obviously, because I'm doing this as well, this malt obviously can't be used for anything else. I mean, when we brew up on a big kit, which is obviously 1,000 litres at a time, I don't think I would do this anyway, because it's such a waste of grain, to be quite honest, which is one of the reasons I never do it anyway.
because all our grain generally then just goes to the local farmer and he feeds his cattle with the grain. So, and if we start adding hops to our bigger batches and stuff like that to our malt, we would not be able to do that simply because well, number one, the cows just wouldn't eat it anyway, but it's actually poisonous to any animal, if you like, because of the acids and stuff which are in hops. Even pigs won't eat them, and you know, if you know pigs, pigs pretty much eat anything. So, but there we go. We'll come back when we start sparging, and then we'll start transferring the water obviously into the boil kettle. So.
Okay, so there we go. Sparging with that. Move that off the top. Now I did put a little jug somewhere. There it is, right in front of me. So we're just going to give this sparge now and wash all through. But before we do that, we need to run the first wort off, so that we can clear basically any grains out the bottom of the false bottom, which is in the bottom of the mash tun. That basically stops then any grainy flavours transferring into the final beer, though, you know. So all I'm looking for here is basically grains to stop coming through. This usually is pretty quick on this kit because the false bottom in it is really, really good. There we go. Really nice colour coming out of this as well. But, so what we do then, let's just tip that straight back in the top. I suppose this video is also good for those home brewers out there that are looking to start into all grain brewing. So, and then all we do is start our means of doing a runoff, if you like, into there. So I like to go nice and slow if I can, like, you know, not too fast. That allows them for some time for it to trickle out. So you probably can't see, but let's see if I can get the camera at a better angle here. So there we go. So you can see it. That's what I was basically running at. Probably go with a little bit slower there, to be quite honest. That's all I'm running at the moment. So I need to get some liquor in the mash tun. Sorry, I was supposed to start to show you this as well. It's basically what I'm going to be using here as a refractometer. Okay, so basically all this gadget does is uses the light to show me basically how much sugar content is within the wort itself. Never ever use one of these to measure any alcohol content. For something like that, then obviously we use a hydrometer, which I can show you later on. So all I basically do with this is just put some over the lens, you know, and I like to give it a blow as well, just to cool it down. And then just look down the scope to see what our measurement is. Okay, so that's reading 15 bricks at the moment, so that tells me that's already come down quite a bit. You know, still my first run-ins in there, I haven't tipped any into the brew kettle yet. So I'll keep an eye on that. Generally when it comes down to, we're at 5% beer today, so we're looking around about, finish off about 5 bricks I think. If we go any lower than that, you can end up with a thin beer. If it goes too low, you can end up with some tannins in the beer as well. So it gives that, like, effectively using a tea bag twice, if you like, you know. So there we go. Now some fancy homebrew kits obviously have a nice sparge arm pretty much like we've got on our big kit, which goes around in a circle, but you don't here. So we literally have to pour it on top. And all this is obviously hot water, 77 degrees. Just very carefully poured over the top of the mash, and we keep doing that then until we've got a desired volume in there, which today we're looking at 50 litres to finish with. So there we go. So we'll get that done. We'll get that filled up and get the flame on and stuff, and then we'll come back then, guys.
Okay, so what I've got here is my starting liquor. Alright, so this is it's just basically what I've taken out of the mash tub, which was pretty hot anyway, so it's going to be sanitary. So just going to do it. So don't know if you can see that, we're up to 30 degrees, or down to 30 degrees rather, which is where I want it anyway. This yeast can go up to 35 degrees, so but there it is. So all it is, as you can see, is just dried yeast. So obviously we need to rehydrate that again. So all I'm doing basically, when I can get this packet open, is to wish us luck that we pitch this into here and let it rehydrate. So there we go. Wow, look at that. Can you see that already? See the bubbles come up automatically. Now obviously with these strains of yeast, it's Kveik yeast, and pretty much known for being a very fast active fermentations within 48 hours kind of things. I've heard instances of it being absolutely instant, and looking at this and looking at the bubbles in there, let me just grab you a minute. Wow, you can see the bubbles coming up straight away. That is absolutely incredible. Now I was going to pop this back into the fridge to protect it, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm just going to cover that over so that we don't get any infections in there. But wow, so the time is now 12 minutes past 12, so I need to write that down. Pitch time. We still got what's it been, about 25 minutes or so left on the boil, so my guess is this is going to be going pretty crazy by then, but we'll see. There we go, we got the hot break just coming through. Now the hot break is best described as obviously all proteins coming to the top, just before it starts to boil, as you can see. Usually at this point then you'd add in your 60-minute hops, which would be your bittering hops. We're not doing that because obviously we put in bittering hops in our mash. In actual fact, we're not putting any hops in until this is boiled and we got the temperature back down to roughly about 80 degrees. So there we go. There we go, there's a proper boil on. We've got about 10 minutes left of the boil to go. I'm only doing actually a 40-minute boil on this, I think. My gravity was lower than I wanted to pre-boil, but so I'd give it a really good vigorous boil and everything to start with, and I'm pretty much already where I need to be now, so I'm happy with that. So we'll give it another 10 minutes. So we've got a 40-minute boil going on there. We only usually do a 40-minute boil anyway on our big kit, unless it's lager or something like that, or a big impy stout or something like, but there we go. So there we go, we got the Whirlpool hops in. I've actually got the temperature down to roughly, what's that, about 71, so that's good. I was obviously going to a heat exchanger. then going into those sanitised buckets. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back into the vessel I basically use for the hot water. That's all been sanitised. There's actually peracetic acid in there at the moment, so I'm going to need to tip that out now, and I'm going to ferment the beer in there basically, because I'm going to come back to the brewery in the morning and see what the Krausen's like and everything on this beer, and I need to crop it if I can. So that's basically what I want to do. Crop this yeast. Probably, if it's any good, I might brew with it again and keep brewing with it until I've got enough yeast there basically to pitch it into 1,000 litres of beer, which would be great. So the yeast itself, it's not doing too bad actually. It's you know, it's good in there. It's looking good. So I said that all this is a test thing, like, you know, just with the yeast really, and see what happens with it. So there we go. So there we go. It's all transferred now into the fermenter. The yeast is actually pitched, and there's the temperature up on the gauge. So I said about 30 degrees, so I'm happy with that. 30.5, we can go with that. There we go. The brew done. Okay, so is the moment of truth. I'm going to do a gravity reading. So as I've walked. So that's really nice and really clear, to be honest. We don't need to put that much in to start with. So first thing I'm going to do is, I like to use a glass one on here because they're pretty accurate, these things. So we can see then where this is going down to. What I'm looking for really is to try and get it as close to 20 degrees as possible, but to be quite honest, all I need to do is a temperature adjustment on it, and I'll show you in a minute how that is actually done. So that is looking 22 degrees to me. Just give that a quick rinse. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to put a professional hydrometer in there. Okay, so this will give me a really accurate reading. This is where we are, kind of thing. So it does actually look quite low. 10:30. Just give it a second. I would say that was 10:32. Okay, so temperature correction on there. So all we need to do is take that. We need to look at this chart, which obviously comes from Stevenson Rees. It's their hydrometer as well. So if we look at this chart, we find fermentation temperature. So we'll look at 10:30. Then we'll go to 20. So it's +6. So 10:32.6. So there we are, guys. 10:32.6, a little bit lower than what I wanted to, but it's an experimental brew, you know. So but there we go. That's all done. It's all wrapped up in the FE. You know, I have put yeast nutrients in there as well, just to help that yeast a little bit. So, but we'll see where it goes anyway and what happens. But there we are. That's it pretty much. For this week's video. See what happens next week. Cheers.